She has a lot of heat for other people, but then when it comes time for people to reciprocate, it's problematic for her. I just find that interesting. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another video. So typically I would try to do one of these when I'm doing my makeup, but today I just didn't really feel like putting on makeup and trying to talk at the same time. I feel like I have to mentally prepare myself for doing both of those things at once, you know, for a video. Today it's just gonna be another one of me pretty much talking, and as you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about the Real Housewives of Potomac. So in the last video that I did talking about Real Housewives in general, that video was the Real Housewives of Atlanta review, and in that one I realized that it was really long, mainly because I tried so hard to talk about the entire season, which was quite a number of episodes packed into one, and I was like, you know what, for Potomac I'm just going to do it a few episodes at a time. So I'm going to do another video pretty much talking about the other next couple of episodes pretty much, but as of right now, the last episode that I stopped at was basically of the ladies going down to Miami for a girls trip. We're gonna hop right into it because this is already looking like a very interesting season. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of Atlanta a little bit because of how kind of semi-ratchet it is. It's almost funny watching them trying to be all, you know, elegant and stuff like that, and I'm like, stop it. Just deep down, just stop, you know? So far, I believe they have 10 episodes in total out, but have not watched all 10. So I've said this before in previous videos, whenever it comes to like reality TV, I actually kind of mass watch episodes. I really like doing that, like kind of waiting so I could kind of binge. Like I said, they have about 10 episodes out, but I stopped pretty much where they're in Miami and, you know, they're having this dinner, but we're gonna get to that, all right? Now, from the beginning of this season, I already knew it was shaping up to get kind of spicy, okay? Let's just say it that way. But we start off basically with Karen, Robin, and Giselle, and also Ashley having what looks like a picnic underneath like some cherry blossom trees, and basically they're pretty much going in on Ashley, trying to figure out like where she's at, because I believe it actually did come out before the show started airing that Ashley was getting a divorce from Michael. She was actually the one that filed, I believe. We find out in the show that she didn't have intentions on putting that information out until after a certain time, but it ended up getting leaked. So clearly it was from somebody that they know, more than likely, or maybe the information, you know, came out because obviously that's kind of like public record, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we look online and we find out that she's still technically married. Based on Google's information, she got married in 2014 to Michael, and it looks as though they haven't really finalized anything yet. But again, I find it interesting that it took her this long, to be honest, because Michael, no offense, Mr. Darby, was very much so all over the place. In previous seasons, Ashley had to deal with a lot from Michael. We actually find out that they used to have like threesomes together. TMI, honestly, I felt like they should have just left that out of the show, but I guess it kind of helped with ratings to kind of keep it a little spicy. But yeah, they used to have threesomes together, and I guess now, you know, after having kids, Ashley was just like, yeah, I'm not into this lifestyle anymore. But Michael clearly was not having it and still dipping and dabbling into doing those types of things, but just without her. So cheating obviously occurred. I think in the show she tries not to really talk about it, but clearly, like I was saying from the beginning, they're talking about Ashley's divorce, and Giselle was pretty much insinuating that Ashley is not really being fully honest with them about the divorce, but we actually find out that she is pretty much doing that because he has, like, you know, obviously majority of the money, the income. So in terms of getting a house, the size that she probably wants, she would have to use him as a backing for that. So it's a reasonable excuse, but the thing is, it is still kind of weird. You know what I mean? It's still kind of weird. Now when it comes to Giselle, I have kind of like a love-hate relationship with Giselle, because I do feel like she does a good job with exposing the truth on this show, but at the same time, I feel like she does too much to expose the truth sometimes. It's her methods that it's just, I don't agree with. And I feel like Robin often gets caught in the crossfire. I don't know if y'all remember in the last season, but Giselle and Wendy, they ended up having a whole blow up because Giselle had kind of insinuated that Wendy had gotten a boob job because her husband was cheating on her. That was the rumor, okay? And Giselle was just repeating the rumor. However, it was just kind of like, why are you repeating this rumor? You know what I mean? Obviously, she probably heard about it, so just let it be. Giselle is the type of person that keep pushing things, keep pushing your buttons until you blow up. So Wendy exploded while they were on what looks like a girls' trip again in the other season, and then obviously Robin was sitting there, you know, she's gonna defend her friend, and then she ends up getting caught in the crossfire. But you know, that kind of carried over into this season, and we get to see Wendy again. She comes into Karen's party and tries to say hi and hug Giselle, and she's just like, yeah, don't touch me. There was like a lot of back and forth obviously between Wendy and Giselle. Wendy had said a lot of things about Giselle and her marriage to her previous husband and things like that, and obviously Giselle was like, yeah, nah, I can't be fake, which I appreciate. Giselle, even though she could be kind of trifling, okay, I appreciate the fact that she is like, listen, I don't like you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna try and fake to be friends in public. Like, nah, no. And I can respect that, honestly. Me personally, if you was talking trash to me and you tried to come up to me and hug and kiss, no. No ma'am. You know, so I am for her not faking that. However, I do feel like she did a bit much at the party, especially when it came to Wendy. It was just like, okay, Giselle, we get it. You don't want to be fake, but at the same time, you don't have to be rude. So that's kind of another example as to why I have a love-hate relationship with Giselle. But moving on to Mia. Mia got introduced to the group of women last season by Karen, and Mia, I think before the first episode, over on her Instagram, she had been posting the fact that she had to go to get her boob checked because she had like a growth or some growths in them. So basically she was saying that she had to get that checked out to make sure that it wasn't cancer. So it did seem as though that a lot of the ladies had come to a conclusion that, oh my god, like she could be having cancer because she mentioned that she had to go get her growths checked out by a cancer research facility or hospital. So they kind of, it's like, if you're gonna say something as serious as cancer, like, you know, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, why would you post that on social media type of thing? So Giselle was pretty much insinuating that Mia was lying about the whole situation, because I guess she would kind of go back and forth with her story, which she kind of did throughout the whole couple of episodes that I watched. And I was like, yeah, it does sound kind of suspicious. However, I do kind of believe her. Okay, I don't think you would necessarily lie about something like that. If you do, something's wrong with you, you know? But basically Giselle at Karen's party started making a whole just crazy thing, okay? This was after she started talking to Ashley again about the whole divorce from Michael, basically saying, you're lying about that situation. And then she also goes over to Mia and said, you're lying about, you know, possibly having any type of like cancerous growths and things like that. Like, you're making up this whole situation. And Mia's just like, you know what? F you. Like, it's just a whole thing. Another thing that was kind of funny to me at Karen's party was the way that Karen was acting around, I think it was Charisse. I think Charisse got invited by somebody else. I don't think Karen invited her, but she showed up. And I think Charisse and Karen have such an interesting relationship, obviously, because in the past, Charisse has basically kind of insinuated that Karen would cheat on her husband, Ray. And it was like, okay, why would you say that? You know what I mean? So I understand where Karen's coming from, but at the same time, it's just like, you don't gotta do all that you're doing to avoid making contact with this person. Like, it's really not that serious. Obviously you guys aren't friends, but at the same time, you don't gotta jump through so many hoops to try and avoid them. It just looks weird. Later on in the episodes, we see that Candace and Ashley were actually trying to have some type of relationship, some type of friendship, especially after Candace found out that Ashley had been in the process of divorcing Michael. She was like, yeah, I really am liking this new Ashley. And they started forming a friendship, but it was really short-lived. But Candace, you know, this season she's trying to like harvest, I think, some eggs so she can freeze them, because as of right now she has a lot going on. She's trying to do the whole music thing, but the thing is she has to do a little bit of IVF, I think, to obviously harvest the eggs. So she, at the beginning of this season, she brings up the fact that her husband Chris, you know, he has a change in job. He's now working at this hotel, I believe, managing this restaurant. And from there, they kind of have a lot of arguments about him not being around, him not being able to kind of, I guess, help her out with like certain things that she needs, especially with the whole IVF process. She has to do a lot of like hormone injections, so she just feels kind of abandoned. So she brings that up. And then with the whole thing about, you know, Chris now having this job, Chris DMs Ashley after seeing her out and about, and he's just like, yeah, you should have been at the so-and-so, wherever he manages. I can't remember the name of the restaurant. But she brings it up to Candace because she just finds it kind of odd. And she's just like, I want to make sure that you know about everything. I don't want you to like randomly see something later on down the line and be like, why didn't you tell me? That type of way. So I appreciate the openness, you know, in terms of Ashley. But at the same time, I didn't really see anything weird. Like after she brought it up to Robin, Ashley anyway, Robin said that, you know, that he manages the so-and-so, right? The restaurant. And she's just like, oh yeah. So after that conversation with Robin, I thought that Ashley was just gonna dead the situation, but she was just like, yeah, I'm gonna still bring it up. So I personally didn't think it was necessary to bring up to Candace. However, it was like, well, maybe this is a new storyline for the show, and that's why they were like bent on having Ashley say something, but making it seem as though she's being just an honest person, you know? Obviously, this leads into Giselle. A couple episodes down, they have like a dance class or something like that with all the ladies. And Giselle, she pretty much makes mention that in the previous season, she had a conversation with Chris about some of the things that I think Giselle had said about him or their marriage. I can't remember quite exactly like what happened, but based on Giselle's story, it sounded like Chris was like suggesting to her, because of that, he wants to talk to her, but he wants to talk to her in a hotel room, and there was nobody in the hotel room, and it made her feel uncomfortable. And that was pretty much it. Nothing happened. And that was a story that she had also told to Robin. So it was just kind of like, I don't understand what's going on here. You know, why did y'all feel the need to bring this up? Nothing happened, but you just felt like a little like, yeah, you know, it's just like, why bring that up unless you're trying to start some ish? What was the point of that? Clearly she brought that up to Candace. Candace did not like that. She did not take that well. She decided she just wanted to leave. Okay, she had some words for the cameraman, and she was just like, listen, I'ma leave because y'all ain't gonna play me or my husband like that, okay? And Candace, does not talk to pretty much anyone, especially Giselle. And when it comes to Candace, she could hold spite for a very long time, okay? Surprisingly. And Giselle, I'm surprised that she didn't think that this wasn't gonna go over well. You know what I mean? It's just, it's weird for you to bring up someone's husband and, you know, obviously insinuate that they were trying to do something with you. That's, you know, obviously it's gonna make you kind of aggravated, especially after Ashley had already said something about him DMing her, even though that was like harmless. So obviously she was already very agitated, so I understood why she left. I'm pretty sure they were trying to use this as a main storyline because they kept pushing it, you know, and it was getting rather aggravating. I'm not even gonna lie. And the way that Candace was reacting to it, I would have probably done the same thing. However, I do think that Candace can be rather emotional, and she does things sometimes that is really erratic, and it's just like, I probably wouldn't have done that, but I understand why she is emotional. But I do find it interesting that sometimes she could be so aggressive with other people, but then when they're aggressive with her, she wants to start crying. Candace, she has a lot of heat for other people, but then when it comes time for people to reciprocate, it's problematic for her. I just find that interesting. Shortly after that, of course, there was a whole crazy fight almost between Robin and Wendy. Robin definitely does not like Wendy. Giselle, I feel she tries to just keep her distance from Wendy, but Robin clearly is very much so still agitated as hell, which I can understand because Wendy says things and it's very, very condescending. very condescending. In that last season, Wendy had basically talked about how Robin being with her ex-husband and getting re-engaged to this man. She just said a lot of hurtful things. And I mean, honestly, why would you want to even continue to be in a friendship or any type of relationship at all with a person like that? Clearly that's what you felt. Even though Wendy felt attacked in that moment in that previous season to lash out at Robin and Giselle like that, the fact that you were saving that to say and you still never apologized for it. Like, Wendy does not like to apologize for anything. She just likes to act like she don't know what you're talking about. It's very wild to me. At least with Candace, she knows what she said, okay? She would stand 10 toes down in it. But when it comes to you coming back to her in terms of what you have to say, she can't handle it, all right? So there's a difference. But with Wendy, she would act like she has no idea what the heck you talking about, why you angry, why you mad, upset, none of that. Okay, I find it interesting that before they end up going on this girls trip that Mia had planned, Wendy decides to have this, I think, trip to a winery. And I was like, I'm happy that you had it in a secluded area where it was just y'all, because that would have been interesting if it was a bunch of other people around. It would have been way more embarrassing if there were like visitors and stuff to the winery other than them watching that go down. And he decides to have like a burn session, I guess, basically where she would have other people bring up their feelings and concerns about things that have happened within the group, okay, between people. So they would write it down, bring it up, and then they are supposed to burn it to kind of signify that they're letting it go. And Wendy, she was doing so much mental gymnastics. It was so funny watching her in that moment try to deflect everything that everybody said. Mia, she came right out with it. She was like, this is my problem with you. Wendy was just like, you know what? I accept it. You know, and it was just like, it's one thing to accept it and it's one thing to apologize for it and try to do better. It's a completely different thing. And Wendy, I think, just was trying to do it just to save face. Like, that whole thing was just her saving face to kind of like make amends with all the women, just so they could, you know, have like, I guess, this toxic sisterhood. Really, she was doing the most, especially when it came to Robin and what Robin was feeling. And she was just like, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. It was like, Wendy. Oh my God, sis. When it came to that whole like winery situation, that's when I saw Ashley for who she was, which is a snake. I'm just going to be honest. I really used to like Ashley. And to be honest, I really carried a torch out for her these last couple of seasons. But when it came to Candace, I really felt bad for her in this moment. I forgot how the conversation started, but Ashley had basically said something to Candace, okay? I believe it was something about her husband, Chris, and I think it was about what Giselle had said. I think. I can't quite remember because it's been a minute since I watched that episode. But I remember Ashley pretty much saying, doesn't feel so good now, does it? You know, like something like that, kind of taunting Candace a little bit. And she basically came right out with it and was like, yeah, I kind of wanted to say something to kind of like hurt your feelings and get back at you a little bit. And it was really weird. Like, I was just like, why? What are we doing here? I thought this was supposed to be like a forgiveness type of thing. You know what I mean? It's just really strange. So after that whole situation, Mia's just like, listen, let's have a trip down to Miami. You know, let's have some fun. First night goes horribly wrong. We see during the episodes that Wendy is trying to start a restaurant and she brings Peter in. And obviously they're trying to have some type of business relationship going on. I guess Wendy never gets back to Peter on a few things. And we find out that Peter owns a restaurant that Mia decides to take the girls to. And she finds out from Peter, of course, that Wendy, based on Peter's remembrance of things, that Wendy never got back to him on some things. And that's just really weird for you to be dodging him like that, right? So he brings that up to Mia because she asked, she pulls him aside. And this is while they're at dinner now with the rest of the girls. She walks over to Peter and has that conversation, right? So what I find interesting, obviously, when it comes to Mia is that she is kind of similar to Giselle in that she looks for things to start-ish about. And I think with Mia, she likes to act kind of surprised when you feel the way that you do about what you say. It's very strange. But then, you know, obviously, like I said, they get to dinner. Mia brings all that up. And Wendy, she takes offense to it right away, okay? And she's just like, why do you care so much about my business? You know, like, why do you care so much about my relationship with Peter? Which I think personally, like, why do you care? You know what I mean? Like, it was just really weird how Mia took it upon herself to ask her, like, what's going on between you and Wendy? In terms of, like, her going up to Peter anyway. That was a bit much. She trying super hard to instigate something. It was very weird. So, of course, they have their blow up, and then Wendy, of course, has insults at the ready. But to be fair, it was things that obviously Mia had talked about, because Mia was an open book last season, a little too open about some things. She would just share too much information about her life, and it was just like, sis, you could be an open book but not on TV and not with these women, okay? Wrong time. They have some words, and at one point Wendy decides to basically bring Mia's husband into the situation, and she has some words about the husband, and Mia's like, don't you ever. And she takes it upon herself to whack Wendy, or reach across Karen to pretty much try and like hit Wendy. I'm not entirely sure if the hit actually even landed, but she stands up and she's getting ready to pretty much leave the situation. Wendy's still talking to her. Robin starts filming on her phone, which I'm like, Robin, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to escalate the situation? Clearly, if people see phones involved, they're probably gonna act even crazier. But Robin, you know, like I said, she carries a torch of hate in her heart, deep down, for Wendy at this point. So she pretty much is hoping that Mia kind of whacks the crap out of her. But the thing is, like I said, Wendy has this knack of doing things and saying things to kind of like get you riled up. But when you react a certain way, she's just like, oh my God, like what's going on? You know what I mean? It's just really funny. Mia gets up and she tries to hit Wendy again, and that's when someone, I can't remember who it was, but they basically try to calm the situation down, de-escalate it, and move Mia away from the table. Wendy at that point was like, you know what, I just need to get my stuff from that Airbnb and just go find a hotel room, child, because I can't deal with this no more. I'm happy that she made that decision, because I'm like, girl, you can't go back to that house now. I'm sorry. But what I find really interesting when it comes to the whole Mia and Wendy situation is that the next day was Karen's birthday, I believe. And Mia had kind of promised that she was going to do something for Karen's birthday. But the thing is that Karen is now friends with both Mia and also Wendy. So now that Wendy is at a hotel in a different city, they're in Miami of all places, she's just going to check on Wendy with Ashley and Candace in the car. This is after Candace and Ashley have their little spat. It's very interesting. But Wendy and Ashley, they started to get to know each other a little bit more these last couple of episodes. So Ashley, of course, wants to check on her. Candace and Wendy had been friends. I think Candace was actually the one that introduced Wendy to the group. Correct me if I'm wrong. So they were already friends, but you know, Ashley was kind of new to the group. Karen was in the car as well. And she even asked Mia beforehand, she was like, how would you feel if I go check on Wendy? And she's like, yeah, I would feel away. But Karen's like, I'm a grown woman, I could do what I want. So they hop in a car together. And Mia is just like, just letting y'all know, because y'all going to check on Wendy, y'all are going to have to find a new place to stay, because you're not coming back to this Airbnb. And I was like, well, dang. Like that was really childish to me. I was like, I don't understand. Them going to check on someone that's in a foreign city, basically, that they don't live in, they have no family in, no friends. Them going to check on that person is so problematic to you that you have to kick them out of the place that you invited them to stay at. It was really kind of childish on Mia's part. I really did not agree with that one. That was a bit much. They go to check on Wendy. She's doing all right. But of course, they had to tell Wendy everything that went down after she left. What I find so crazy too, before they left, Candace, she had just came in that night, I think, and Robin had showed her the video and stuff like that. She started crying. Like, Candace starts crying and she's like, it's not okay, you know? And it kind of gave her a flashback of her getting beat the F up by Monique. I don't find violence funny, okay? I don't condone it. I don't condone you putting your hands on anyone. However, if you gonna play with somebody, you can't really tell them how to react. If you're gonna constantly taunt them, okay, and keep putting your hands in their face, you could get this work. Was Monique wrong? Again, that's up to y'all, but it's like you gotta question, you know. I'm just saying, it's just very interesting how she starts crying because obviously she has like a little bit of a flashback moment from that season with Monique, but it was like, sis, your situation was completely different. But anyways, we're gonna move on. So Candace, Ashley, Karen, you know, they are having dinner with Wendy. They give her the rundown, and then shortly after that, like I think later that day, end up having a dinner, and they bring Wendy, I believe. And it was like, what are y'all doing? Are y'all trying to start some ish again? You clearly know that they just had a fight the previous night, and now you're trying to force them to see each other yet again. Okay. In that moment is pretty much kind of when it kind of ends. So these first couple episodes were really interesting. Of course, like I said, there's a couple of storylines. Ashley getting divorced from Michael, supposedly. Giselle pretty much saying that she's not telling the truth. And then also Mia, you know, her having issues health-wise, and Giselle pretty much saying that she's lying. There's a lot going on. And then, you know, obviously when it comes to Wendy, Wendy has an issue with almost half of the group at this point. Giselle doesn't like her, Robin doesn't like her, Mia now has an issue with her. Mia, I don't think ever really liked Wendy, but at least they kind of had a cordial relationship, but now I don't think it's gonna be so cordial. One thing I forgot to mention, that when it came to Robin and Wendy, what I found very interesting about Wendy is that she likes to make herself out to be this major victim, and it's just like, girl, stop, please stop. And we get to see that in this one episode where Robin decides to have kind of like a kids day, like a sports family day type of thing, and she decides to invite all the women, everyone except Wendy. Robin's like, you know what, I have my issue with Wendy, not Wendy's kids. So I would want Wendy's kids to be there to have fun and enjoy themselves. So she kind of devises a plan with Candace to kind of ask her like, okay, could you possibly bring Wendy's kids, you know, to my event, but just not Wendy. If I was Wendy, of course, I would do what she did. I definitely would not let my kids go out to a dang sporting event without me. Like, I don't know about that. And Wendy's pretty much like, well, if you have a problem with me, like, have a problem with me, but don't have a problem with my kids too. But the thing is, she wasn't, you know, Robin wasn't trying to alienate your kids. It's just that you felt a type of way about her not inviting you. Okay, so let's call it out for what it is. She clearly does not have a issue with your kids. This is not about your kids. Okay, this is about you. The fact that she tried to make it seem like Robin was trying to like alienate her kids, it was like, no, sis, it's not about your kids. So clearly we see that there's a lot going on, but that's pretty much my feelings, you know, about everything that I've seen thus far. You guys will probably see me again with the next couple of episodes in a bit. I promise I'll be back. But y'all can let me know your thoughts on everything that I said and mentioned and brought up. But yeah, it's been rather interesting so far. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.